Welcome back, Defenders. In my last video, I shared with you guys my second favorite Wikipedia page of all time, Suspicious Russia-related deaths since 2022. And we've got another entry. This is the list of Russian businessmen and politicians who have suspiciously died in the last 3.5 years. The leading cause of death for Russian millionaires appears to be open windows. And when we scroll to the bottom, this is July of 2025, we've got another entry. This is a big one. Sacked Russian transport minister kills himself hours after being fired by Putin. Just hours after Roman Starovoyt, the former governor of Kursk, was fired by Putin, he turned a gun on himself. This is a member of Putin's inner circle, a former governor and the current transport minister. Here's him meeting with Putin in Putin's bunker. And I don't think this was a mystery. I don't think this is suspicious. I think this guy did actually kill himself. Here is what the analysis is. The former Russian transport minister Roman Starovoyt was reportedly about to be charged with 15 billion ruble, the equivalent of $190 million, fraud over the construction of border fortifications in Russia's Kursk region. According to this Telegram channel, the dismissal of Roman was only a pretext for bringing him to criminal responsibility. This is where it gets good. As reported in April, the former Kursk regional governor, Alexei Smirnov, and his former deputy were arrested on corruption charges after multiple frauds were found to have been committed during building the defensive fortifications for Kursk, which Ukraine easily breached. The alleged fraud involved many different contractors using a variety of scams to do the work below standard or not at all. These included inflating costs, employing fictional workers, employing or making obstacles such as dragon teeth too small, and using poor quality materials. The contractors are said to have paid kickbacks to corrupt officials such as Smirnov and Starovoyt, Smirnov's predecessor as governor and boss as deputy governor. Smirnov is reported to have testified against Starovoyt after his arrest in April. Starovoyt was reportedly about to be charged with fraud and embezzlement. Law enforcement bodies were planning his arrest, leading to his dismissal. So this guy definitely was guilty of corruption and stealing tens, if not more than $100 million worth of funds that should have been going towards digging trenches and building fortifications. So this guy got out of the job as governor, but the guy who replaced him was also engaging in corruption, and then he testified against him. So this guy knew he was going to jail probably for the rest of his life. And as soon as he found out he had been dismissed, he knew he was going to be arrested, and he just decided to shoot himself in a public park. And now he's dead. The Kremlin is shocked by the fired minister's apparent suicide. I think if Putin wanted him in custody, he would have been in custody. Allowing them a window between when they're fired and when they're arrested, you're giving them an easy way out. I guess this is just how they do business in Russia, but I'm sure this was the preferred outcome for Putin. Everybody knew he was engaging in corruption, so the message to the other oligarchs is there. The message to the other military commanders and regional governors: if you engage in corruption, maybe we'll punish you, but don't do it if it affects the war effort. And then things get weirder. Another Russian transport ministry official found dead in his Moscow office. This was 42-year-old Andrei Kornichuk, the deputy head of the Department of Regulatory Support and Land Relations. And Russia is saying that he collapsed at his desk of a heart attack. 42-year-old Russian men at their desks are having heart attacks. Yeah, I don't believe that one. But the purge continues. former Russian National Guard official arrested on bribery and abuse of power charges. This is the former first deputy head of the Russian National Guard, Colonel General Viktor Striganov, and he's been arrested and placed in Moscow's high-security detention center. Preliminary arrest relates to an alleged embezzlement during the construction of a military training facility near Novosibirsk. This is everyone. This is every governor. This is every Russian politician. This is every Russian general. Corruption is the only way to maintain Putin's system. That's the trade-off. We don't have rights, we don't have freedoms, but in exchange we get to engage in corruption. It's how Putin maintains his entire regime. And this honestly is what is keeping Ukraine in the game. If Russia wasn't an insanely corrupt country, they would have won this war by now. 3.5 years later, Putin knows this. So he is applying pressure to the governors, to the generals. Scale it back just a little bit until the war is over. I think that's the message Putin is trying to send with all of these high-profile arrests and purges. Ex-deputy chief of Russia's Army National Guard, jailed for 17 years over graft. This is a different general. This is Khalil Arsenalov. He pled guilty to stealing about $17 million from state contracts with this company. It's all of them. It's every single one. And Putin is also going after business leaders who didn't betray him directly. Russian gold mining tycoon barred from leaving the country amid nationalization efforts. So this man sitting in his own private jet right here, this is a Russian gold mining tycoon. He was blocked from leaving the country. He was trying to flee to Turkey. And his name is Konstantin Strukov, the CEO of Russia's third largest gold producer. And he was trying to flee the country on his $50 million bombardier jet when Russian authorities took him into custody. They're going to seize his company. Putin needs money. Putin needs gold. So this guy just lost his entire business. Not saying he was a good guy, but he's just one of them, doing what he's supposed to be doing for Putin. But Putin doesn't care. Putin needs more money for the war effort. So something tells me this list of suspicious Russia-related deaths is going to increase as Putin needs cash. Let's now cover the good news. I want to say this is good news. We have to. Trump says the United States will send more defensive weapons to Ukraine. The U.S. president has ordered his advisors to explore ways to expedite air defenses. One analyst says just delivering everything that Biden promised would be a good start. The Pentagon says they're going to do this. This is the official release statement by Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell. At President Trump's direction, the Department of Defense is sending additional defensive weapons to Ukraine to ensure the Ukrainians can defend themselves while we work to secure a lasting peace and ensure the killing stops. Our framework for POTUS to evaluate military shipments across the globe remains in effect. Whatever. Trump told this to Zelensky on Friday. Trump informed Zelensky in a Friday phone conversation that he had directed a review of Pentagon munition stockpiles after bombing Iran, but that he didn't order the freeze of military aid. This was Elbridge Colby and Pete Hegseth. So on the phone, Trump threw his own advisors under the bus and said, I didn't do this, Zelensky. It was my people underneath me, and I'll reverse it on Monday. And sure enough, he reversed it on Monday. Kellogg and Umarov set to meet, discuss resumption of U.S. military aid to Ukraine. That's great that Keith Kellogg is doing something, but the equivalent of Umarov is not Kellogg. It's Pete Hegseth. But Pete Hegseth doesn't care about Ukraine. Here's the clip. This is Trump saying that he was going to reverse the decision and resume military aid. And just look at Pete Hegseth's face.
Are you planning to send more weapons to Ukraine? We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons. Your defensive weapons, primarily, but they're getting hit very, very hard.
I don't think Pete Hegseth is pro-Russia. I just think he's an idiot. And somebody underneath him, maybe Elbridge Colby, told him this was a good idea, and he thought he was taking initiative. So he halted the scheduled delivery of these military supplies for Ukraine. And this is the third time he's done this. And this is now the third time that Trump reversed his decision within a week. If this seems incredibly stupid to you, you're perceiving it correctly. This is incredibly stupid. Everyone in charge of my government is a moron. That's the only interpretation I can take away from these events. So what is the Kremlin's reaction to the halting of military aid and then a week later the resumption? And here is what Peskov has to say. There was still no final information regarding whether the deliveries had been completed and stopped. You can agree that there were many contradictory statements there. It is obvious that deliveries continue. It's clear for us. It is obvious that the Europeans are also actively participating in pumping Ukraine with weapons. And it is obvious that, of course, these actions are probably not in line with attempts to promote peaceful regulation. That is, in the case, the line that the Europeans have chosen is precisely aimed at in every way facilitating the continuation of military operations. As for what kind of supplies in what quantities continue to arrive in Ukraine from the United States, well, it will still take some time to clarify this completely. There is a lot of conflicting information out there. Yes, Trump puts out a lot of conflicting information. So what I think Trump wants to do is take credit for supplying military aid to Ukraine. When this was allocated by last year's Congress, this was appropriated by President Biden. The bare minimum that Donald Trump can do is follow federal law and allocate funds and deliver the weapons that were already previously promised. So I just want to make it clear that Donald Trump is not promising anything new. He's just promising what the law states should be going to Ukraine. But let's now talk about BRICS. Trump tariffs cloud final day of the BRICS summit. And because Putin is an internationally wanted war criminal, he couldn't be there in person. The BRICS summit took place in Brazil, so they had him up on the big screen like some kind of supervillain. And Trump put out this tweet: any country aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. There will be no exceptions to this policy. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Does Trump know that the R in BRICS stands for Russia? Because currently the tariff rate on Russia is 0%. Trump just introduced 25% tariffs on Japan and South Korea for no good reason, but Russia's still at 0%. Here are thoughts from Garry Kasparov. If Trump wanted to pressure Russia to end the war, he has countless avenues and has had every opportunity, but from phone calls with Putin to 2 more weeks, he has chosen not to every day. There's no conclusion other than that he is siding with Russia over Ukraine. Yes, I believe that Trump likes Putin and prefers Russia over Ukraine. But Trump is also annoyed. He's now been president for 6 months, and the Russians have made no progress on the battlefield. Congress has not supplied any additional military aid, and the Russians still haven't captured all of Chasiv Yar. They haven't taken Pokrovsk. They haven't even taken all of Tariffs yet. And it's been 6 months. So Trump is annoyed. He doesn't want to be thinking about and talking about Ukraine for the next 3 years. So what we need is for Trump to get annoyed, get mad, and then finally turn on the Russians. And the Russians are not making this any easier. Lavrov names sanctions relief and return of frozen assets as preconditions for a Ukraine ceasefire. Not to end the war. For a ceasefire, Russia wants their $300 billion back, and all sanctions that have ever been placed on Russia to be entirely lifted. That isn't going to happen, which means Russia doesn't actually want to stop this war. This is the reality. So Congress needs to act. Here is Senator Lindsey Graham. I very much appreciate President Trump's efforts to end the bloodbath in Ukraine, but it takes willing partners. Ukraine has said yes to ceasefires and to any and all meeting requests, while Putin continues to defy peace efforts. It is now time to put more tools in President Trump's toolbox in order to end the war. I expect the Senate will move the bipartisan Russian sanctions bill that will allow tariffs and sanctions to be placed on countries who prop up Putin's war machine and do not help Ukraine. Is this bill actually going to happen? And this is former Speaker of the House, Republican Newt Gingrich, and he says yes. Senator Lindsey Graham's important bill on increasing sanctions on Russia will come up for a vote on Wednesday. This is a very important bill which will send a big signal to Putin that talking and killing is a losing strategy. The American people will only tolerate being lied to by a murdering dictator for a limited time. Senator Graham's bill is a prudent next step in putting pressure on Putin to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine. Is this sanctions bill good? And I don't have to give you my opinion. I can just give you President Zelensky's. And President Zelensky wants this bill passed. And yes, I understand there's a carve-out where Trump has to then enact sanctions. It's his choice, even if Congress passes it. But we're still making progress in pushing Trump in the right direction. Can we rely on Trump? No. I'm not saying that, guys. But if we can get the Russians and Trump to start fighting with each other, even on social media, this will be good in shifting the mindset of Trump supporters, of people in MAGA. I don't think it's going to take very much more to get people who support Russia and people who support Trump to start fighting with each other. That's all we really want. And if Republicans pass this bill, if military aid resumes, the social media battle online, guys, it is important. It does make a difference on the actual battlefield. So yes, if we can get Congress to just vote for this, this is really going to upset Putin and the Russians and not have them be so friendly with MAGA. And sanctions work. Sanctions hit harder than bombs. Russian courts reveal systemic failure in weapons supply. No radar, no drones, no sonar. The military's most critical projects are all stalled in legal chaos. This is according to a journalist investigation. Fake parts, failed deliveries, and smuggling schemes. If Russia cannot legally purchase what they want and need because of sanctions, then they got to go on the black market. And if they're on the black market, they're paying 2, 3, 4 times what they would be paying otherwise, and they're going to get ripped off. They're going to be delivered fake parts. Deliveries just won't happen after payment. And with smuggling, things tend to disappear in transit. This is all bad for Russia, so yes, sanctions are important. Aside from that, Ukraine has to rely on themselves. Ukraine's drone production soars, creating Sky Army 10 times bigger in just 1 year. Here are the numbers. Ukraine is now producing 200,000 drones per month, the new reality of its war efforts. Drone manufacturing in Ukraine has surged 900% over the past year. This is why the Russians aren't making progress on the battlefield. It's not because of landmines, it's not because of artillery, it's because of FPV drones. And there's a number on this chart we don't really talk about or think about, but it's right here. Vehicles and fuel tanks, 54,370. 118 supply trucks were destroyed just yesterday, mostly by FPV drones. So both sides are doing this. It's horrendous, but Ukraine doesn't have to move. Ukraine is not trying to advance at this time, but the Russians are. So the Russians need more supplies. They need more resources if they want to move troops to the contact line and then advance. But they're not advancing. And this is the informal day-to-day reports that don't really make headlines. But anytime Russia tries to send a supply truck within 20 kilometers of the contact line, they're spotted, and that truck is destroyed. This is how we get to 54,370. Russia knows this. This is a huge problem if they want to continue advancing. So this is their solution. I have to share this goofy video. And this is a Russian training ground specifically designed for combat biker units. Trucks are too expensive. Armored vehicles are too expensive. So they're giving their soldiers motorcycles. You can argue there are some benefits, even though they offer no protection for the rider. Landmine, artillery, FPV drone, everything is going to kill this Russian soldier on that motorcycle, including machine guns and small arms fire. But Russia doesn't see any other way. So they're currently training their troops to do supply runs with motorcycles, to rotate troops on motorcycles, and even go into combat on motorcycles. You can see at this point in the video, they're using their motorcycles as like shielding or protection. This is insane, guys. This just doesn't make any sense. You would only do this to your military if you did not care about the lives of your soldiers, which the Russians don't. This is goofy. I'll link it down below if you want to watch it. Let's get to some bad news for Russia. Ukraine confirms renewed strategic strikes on Russian oil after a 4-month hiatus. Ukraine's military intelligence confirms a long-range drone strike on Russia's Ilsky oil refinery, marking the first attack on Russian energy infrastructure in nearly 4 months. This was a winning strategy the first couple months of the year, going after oil depots and refineries, but because of the peace talks that Trump wanted, Ukraine stopped doing it. Now, they had other targets to go after, Russian airfields. They never stopped operating inside of Russia. But I think we're going back to this now. I think Ukraine is going to go back to targeting refineries and depots until Russia runs out of money. Explosion damages tanker in Russian port, marking the 6th mysterious blast this year. This is the speculation. Russia's Shadow Fleet tankers keep being sabotaged or blown up. Does Ukraine have anything to do with this, or is this just a lack of proper maintenance? And Ukraine might have something to do with this. Ukraine confirms drone strike on a Russian chemical plant near Moscow. There's a video. I'll link it down below. Ukraine hits backbone of Russian ammo supply chain. This is a defense plant near Moscow. Ukraine is launching their own domestically produced drones into Russia almost every night. We're getting success, but we're just not going to get good pictures and videos because civilians are punished if they post them online. This is a video I debated sharing with you guys. This is really sad, but Russian drone operators enjoy killing birds. This video is of endangered pelicans, and the Russians saw them in the sky and with an FPV drone just killed them, and then uploaded the video online because they were proud of what they did. This is who the Russians are. They're willing to waste drones that cost hundreds, if not more than $1,000 to kill birds. Private Russian space firm facing bankruptcy and string of high-profile failures. This is a Russian company, SR Space, founded in 2020, and it collapsed because sanctions and Russia's failed economy. We need more of this. We need more startups and tech companies, what few Russia has, to continue closing up shop and then have all of their scientists and engineers go to other countries. Even if they go to India or China, as long as they don't stay in Russia, this hurts the Russian economy. This is crazy. Russian tour companies introduced trips to the Taliban-ruled Afghanistan for $3,000. Russia has now recognized the Taliban as the official government of Afghanistan and has normalized relations. It's kind of crazy. And now they're advertising vacations to Kabul? I don't know. The trip will last 8 days, but the Afghan visa, flights, insurance, and on-site security are not included in the price. That's a no for me. I don't think I would go on this trip, guys. EBRD to unlock $1 billion in credits for Ukraine's key sectors. This is good news. This is the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and they're going to supply over $1 billion in loans to help Ukrainian businesses. So, thank you so much to the European Bank. One Ukrainian drone keeps smashing Russia's top war factories, so Germany is paying for 500 more. The Germans are not being completely transparent about what they're funding as far as missile and drone technology, but there's a lot of money moving around. I don't think Taurus cruise missiles are coming anytime soon, but Germany's response is we're going to supply technicians, materials, components, whatever Ukraine needs to produce their own cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and long-range drones. So Germany is doing a fantastic job helping Ukraine increase their own domestic production, and we're going to see the benefits of this pretty darn soon. So thank you so much to the German people. Final video I have for you is kind of funny. This is a Russian man on the beach in Sakhalin, and he was filming a fox when the fox stole his phone.
Держи. На, очень вкусный телефон. Держи. Давай. Очень вкусный. Ах ты, сука! А ну, блядь!
Pretty cute. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.